I can see the edge of the tape. Where was it? Pretty well right there. So I'm going to put some mud over it. So the inside corner is done for right now. I got it as smooth as I want. Now I'm going to do this outside corner. So I'm going to get a knife, just put some mud on there and just smoothen it out. It'll fill into this bevel. And then I'm going to let it all dry for a while. Then I'm going to come through with a sponge, not a sandpaper, and just lightly touch up where I see lines, like, you know, kind of blend this line a little bit. Then we'll be ready for texture. So here's the middle part here, 4 foot high. Take your T-square, put it across there. You should have almost no gap between there. And we got no gap, perfectly flat. Take a look at the house that you're in now and look 4 foot high and see if you can see a divot right there in between the sheets of drywall. And if you do, fire your contractor immediately. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna smooth this out now. You just come up until the rounded part, it's sort of beveled right here. You're just filling it in to get it as flat as possible. Just like butter. Look, even put down some spare pieces of drywall right here so we could keep the carpet clean. I'm gonna do this with a 6-inch, and then I might come back through with an 8-inch to just really smoothen it out.
I don't know if you can see, but I put a piece of tape right there because the gap was so much that I didn't want it to crack. So if it's really thick mud, you want tape. So I just put a piece of tape there and put mud on top of it so it doesn't crack later.
A little thin right there. Sanding's bad for your health. Breathing anything other than air is bad for your health. So, we're going to use a sponge. A lot less mess, a lot less cleanup. So we let it dry overnight and the mud shrinks and you can see the screw holes will either be innies, just like belly buttons, or outies. So these are some innies. Up here was some outies, right? So I didn't sand it, but I kind of did. I just took my knife and just scrape. You can see it flatten down. So depending on how it dries when it's wet, this was an outie. And then come back over a second time with a little like that. While it's still wet, you clean it up. So it's the day after Christmas. First step is to make sure that the Barbie dream house is cleared of the area because it's going to be a huge mess. Now we got the tape. We taped it all off for a nice cleanup, and sanding is not allowed. It's a huge mess. So I'm going to use this sponge and just clear off the crud off this metal right here. See, it comes right off. Hot water is best. And just touch it up as much as possible. You could spend the rest of your natural life getting it perfect, but there's no such thing as perfect. So just get rid of the lines, screw holes at least twice, and prep for texture. It looks pretty good, it's pretty smooth, until we come right here. Now you can see that, and you can see, I'll get out of the shadow, you can see this line right here, it kind of cracked a little bit. So I'm going to fix that. And look what I got for Christmas. Homemade. Thank you. Speaking of lighting issues, I totally forgot I even had this thing. Look, check this thing out. Bam. Bam. Swivel and any angle. Link below. This thing's awesome. Why wasn't I not using this? I forgot. We went out and got one of these guys. Texture gun for use with the air compressor. Right? That's this one. However, if you don't have an air compressor and don't want to buy one, you can get this one. It's just an electric fan that blows it. And as always, links for all this are below. Use the links, guys. And so we have a bucket, 5-gallon bucket to mix our mud for our texture, some water, a little mixer, and all of our tools. So let's get mixing. So try to keep it as clean as you can. Get some of this. That's what we got right there. Let's try that. So here's our spray gun right here. It did not come with this quick connect here, so you gotta buy one of those. Now, this is the fluid control nozzle. So you all the way clockwise as tight as it will go. No fluid will come out. The trigger will barely pull. Start from there. I'm gonna go 1 turn, so it pulls just a little bit. And I got the I'm gonna use the medium. Came with 3 different nozzles for different size texture. I'm gonna use the middle one just to test that out, see how thick it is. And right here we got this set up as our scrap to test the texture. Wipe out that grease first before you use it the first time. All right, so I don't know if you can see the consistency in there, but it's like, it's kind of like pancake mix. Not an exact science, but pancake mix. 90 psi. This has turned out 2 turns from all the way tight. All the way clockwise turned out 2 turns. What do you think? Look.
It needs to be heavier than that.
Alright. That's 2 turns, so I'm going to do 3 turns.
Maybe it needs to be thicker.
Thicker, huh?
See, it's too smooth.
Yeah. We're turned out 3 turns. I'm going to do 4 turns. This is how much it squeezes. Let's see.
Hold the gun a little farther away.
Ooh, that's coming out better. That's better.
See, it's flowing. After it hits, it's flowing out flattened.
Yeah.
It shouldn't do that.
It's too thin. So here's the thickness. It's kind of holding its shape still. So it's a little bit thicker. That should be good. Here's 3 turns from all the way tight.
Hold it right there.
I was about 2 feet away from the board there. Okay, so we set it all up. 3 turns. We turned out the knob 3 turns. We have the medium nozzle. And we have plastic sheeting all over the floor and the ceiling and even the fan. So let's get started. So I turned it down slightly from 90. It's at like 80 psi. And we're gonna go. Let's get messy. So I'm like 18 inches away from this. That's what we got so far. When you do these corners, the metal doesn't absorb as much as the paper, so it's gonna take a long time to dry right there. So what we're gonna do is we're not gonna knock it down from there. We're gonna use the knife just on the wall and not the metal. Then we'll just use a sponge later because it'll just spread, it won't knock down. The hose away from that mud. Oh, now you want to spray. Oh, come on. I need some help here. Lighting. It's like clogged. I don't know why it's see, the one's leaving. Okay, now you see that? See, it's a little bit wet looking on the tips of it. You want to wait until it kind of looks sort of dry, right? I don't know, depending on temperature, humidity, and all that jazz. Take a long flat blade. Once it gets like dryish, so as you can see, I already did it right here, but you just do an angle. Basically, if here's a wall, you just do an angle like that. Just come across and knock it down. Let's try this spot right here. It looks a little wet. You can tell if it's too wet if it starts to just smear rather than knock down. And then it'll get flat like that. See those 2 flat spots right there? It was probably too wet right there. And clean up as you go. So you take your sponge. Sorry about the lighting, but like that. We knocked it all down. It's not perfect, but nothing is. Now while it's still wet, I'm going to take all the tape off so it's not sticking to everything.
So we're totally done. Let's see if you can see this texture. That's what it turned out like. So right here on the corner, on the metal, I didn't even knock it down at all. I just let it dry. Because if you knock it down, it's just going to smear because the metal doesn't absorb the moisture like the paper and the mud. See, I got a little bit of a scrape right there, but other than that, it turned out pretty good.
Alright, before I forget, I want to give a shout out to my friend, mentor, taught me almost everything I know about drywall. I won't say his name, but you'll always be a champion in my book. And thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope your drywall comes out fantastic. And there's no such thing as a perfect job. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to use the links, please, and subscribe.
I removed the tape while it was still wet, and the face paper was wet from the moisture of the texture, and it started to rip off a little bit, so I gotta fix that boo-boo.
When you finally do come to paint, just know that it's dry wall, hence dry. It's going to soak paint up like a sponge. So it's going to use, new drywall is going to use way more paint than just repainting. So factor that in when buying paint. Look at that beautiful view. So when you're doing these corners on windowsills with this bull nose, these 90-degree corners, what Mr. Champion would probably do is just cut at a 45-degree angle. However, for us mere mortals, they sell just a 90-degree cut piece right here. Right? So you just put that piece, then straight and a straight. And that'll make it a lot easier.
Okay, so this is one of the finished rooms that we did upstairs. We did all the drywall in here. And I want to show you some mistakes that we did when we were learning. So we framed this window. It's supposed to be a 4x3. This one was supposed to be the same, but we framed it incorrectly. So it's a 3x4. They're supposed to be the same. Whatevs. Then right here, you notice the drywall. We cut too much. You can always cut more. You can't cut less. So you can just get oversized covers, which we need to do. Also, when we were doing the electrical on the walk-in closet here, we forgot to add some wire, so we just added it later. And it's inside a closet, so it's all good. But mistakes happen. Learn from mine.